cliche says that music transcends barriers. As a non-musician, I always look at music of all the arts to be most like water. It seems to go in and above and through and over, with and beyond all barriers. And it seems to create landscapes that are beyond space and time. In that light, this evening's recital has come about. The Academy of Indian Music and Cultural Studies in Melbourne takes great pride in being a part of this homage to Carnatic. The Academy has been in existence since 1988, and since that time it has fostered the growth of Indian culture and music in Melbourne. This evening's recital is also special for us because the Academy of Indian Music is the only non-European organization in music excuse me, which has been a part of this great homage to a great composer. This evening's program is in two parts. The first half is a musical dialogue. The second half will be made up of dance. For those of you who are not initiated in Indian music, the Indian classical music tradition stems from two main streams. Though based on the same strata, the North Indian and the South Indian classical music traditions have nuances of differences that may be apparent to the non-musician, but definitely different to the classical musician. This evening's music dialogue mainly stars a Varnam. Now, Varnam is the benchmark of the proficiency and the virtuosity of an Indian musical composer, performer, and dancer. A Varnam, as its name implies, is color. It takes the musician and the composer through such heights of brilliance as a whole gamut of Indian music would allow it. It also has subtleties. It's as if the composer and the musician together explore every possibility of the range of Indian music. As such, the Varnam can be intellectual, at the same time brilliant, it can be affectionate, it can be anything that the composer wishes it to be. Those of you who are musicians will probably understand the technicalities of it better. Sometimes when we do not comprehend the technical aspects of a tradition contrary to our own, our appreciation of the technicalities may not be there, but the soul of the music surely is universal. This evening's Varnam is a special composition because, as I said, Indian classical music has two traditions. This evening's Varnam in the Raga Beha has nuances of North Indian traditions, though based in the Carnatic music composition tradition. As such, it is very special. The second item in the music dialogue is a Pancharatnam, and this is in Ragam Bhairavi, which is a South Indian raga. The first composition is by TRS Subramaniam. The second one is by the great poet saint Tyagaraja. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are musicians, I'm sure will enjoy the technical virtuosity of our musicians here. But your enjoyment, I hope, will be as much as mine will be. Thank you. We thank the Academy for that. Now, those of you who are not familiar with Indian music, if you're wondering how come that this group of musicians are sitting here without a conductor in front of them, that is a mystery that's best explained by the musicians themselves. And also you'll notice that all Indian music is played sitting on the ground. The earth is very sacred to all the arts in India, no less to music. Now before we start the second half, which is dance, many of you may understand that the tradition of music that you have just heard comes from across perhaps 3,000 years. The dance forms in India are no less ancient. The sculptures that exist in temples, in Chidambaram, in Orissa, all over India, testify to the fact that dance was an integral part of religious worship. And you will find that from these sculptures, certain postures recur. All Indian dance is based on a particular treatise by a man called Bharatanatyam, the Natya Shastra. The Natya Shastra, it makes me wonder why it's not one of the renowned classics of the world. As a teacher of English, I use the Natya Shastra to know the format of an essay. It is a book that is laid down for Indian artists for all time. Performers, composers, stage directors, props men, every aspect of the performing arts is condensed into this one volume, the Natya Shastra. Indian dance form is made up of many components. There are many schools of classical Indian dance, unlike the traditions in other places. For instance, Bharatanatyam, which we will witness today, comes from South India, particularly from the state of Tamil Nadu, with its basis in the Tanjore school. The state of Kerala has two classical dance forms, Kathakali, which is dance drama, Mohiniattam, which is dance. In the north, we have Kathak, which has got all the influences of the Mughals, with all the fine elegances of Persian culture, weaving through the basic stratum of Indian music and dance. The dance of the Manipuris is sometimes considered classic by some and folk by others. And in Orissa, we have Odissi. All these are very different and yet are united by their one basis, the Natya Shastra. Tonight we present two of these dance forms which may give you an idea that though these two dance forms are separated merely by a borderline of a state division, yet they really display the virtuosity of both the composers of the music and at the same time the dance choreographers of the Indian tradition. The first part is Bharatanatyam, the dance of Tamil Nadu. The second half, Mohiniattam is first. And to introduce Mohiniattam, there's Mrs. Tana Rajkumar, a renowned Mohiniattam dancer by any standards. And she has a school here in Melbourne, and she is also internationally known. Tara Rajkumar will introduce Mohiniattam, and both these dances are set to the music of the Thillana.
Day before yesterday, the of International Conferences performance at Alexandra Theatre would have seen the premiering of this Thillana. I had the pleasure of presenting Narmatha and Ravichandhira's Thillana, which has been composed in Australia, in Melbourne. So it's very much a presentation offering from Melbourne, from composition to choreography and presentation, both in dance and in music. Nesa has already given you an introduction to the general concept of dance, The two styles that you see today come from the east and the west coast of South India. The Mohiniyattam that you will first see comes from the west coast of Kerala and Bharatanatyam from the east coast. They're very similar because they both come from the same mother, the temple dances of South India. But yet they are different enough for you to see tonight and see the differences. I would just like to point out the differences. First of all, the language of Kerala. India is a language has 14 languages. Each state has its own language. And the language from Kerala is Malayalam. The one from Tamil Nadu is Tamil. And Narmatha has rewritten certain sections to fit Mohiniyattam. The Charanam, the last section of Thillana, is as a dedication to the deity of that particular state. So in the case of Bharatanatyam, the original composition, the item is an offering to the benevolent, beautiful goddess Madurai Meenakshi, who is the deity from Tamil Nadu. Whereas Kerala, the goddesses are powerful, and it is the Durga that is being represented in the Thillana here in the Mohiniyattam, where she is shown as Durga in the Charanam. And the dancer then says, O goddess of the hills of Thirumantham, Thirumantham Kundil Bhagavati, the powerful goddess Bhagavati, who is seen as the destroyer of demons, Durga. The dancer says, O Durga, come, give up your ferocious form, come and dance with your Lord Shiva. That is the ending that you have in the Mohiniyattam. The other contrast is that Mohiniyattam style is based on circular patterns, so they're flowing body movements set to circular patterns, whereas in Bharatanatyam they are angular, set to straight lines. And because of this, the verbal notations that you will hear in Bharatanatyam are harsher. They're spoken rhythmically, verbal notations, and these are not allowed in Mohiniyattam. It's a far more soft flowing style, and we have reset those same verbal notations to swaras or notes so that they're sung and they're not harshly worded as you will hear it in the second Thillana. So I'm delighted to present for you a solo version of the group Thillana that you saw at Alexandra Theatre day before yesterday. Tonight, Nithya Gopu from our Natasuka company dances the Mohiniattam Thillana. Thank you.
Today is a very special day for Indian musicians. It's Guru Purnima, and this section of the recital is dedicated to the gurus of the dancers and the musicians. Thursday is a day for gurus, and as you know, India has a long tradition of homage to knowledge, and especially to the Guru. Today is Guru Purnima, and this section is dedicated to the gurus of all the musicians and the dancers.
Da 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 Rupa